Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood night. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on Thursday, January 20th. The LA Galaxy back in training. Fourth day of training. We got our first media call today, so we're certainly going to cover that. Greg Vanney talking, Kelvin Leerdam, and Raheem Edwards. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll have some audio. That'll probably be towards the end of the show. A lot of housekeeping to do up front with just announcements and getting through the news and a whole bunch of things. We're going to give you all the news on the incoming TAM player as well. So we'll talk a whole bunch of LA Galaxy. I don't know. Maybe that's what we'll do. We got 60 minutes of it on deck for you right now, so we're glad to be there. And to help me do that, she's back. We're glad to have her. Hopefully she's feeling okay. I didn't want to mention Arsenal, but I just hope she's feeling okay. It's Miss Sophie Nicholaou. Sophie, how's it going?
I'm fine. I'm fine. What am I going to do with my sports teams? The Broncos broke my heart. The Angels broke my heart. Arsenal broke my heart. And currently in this off-season, I just have to say LA Galaxy are not doing a job to keep me happy.
I mean, at this point, I'm starting to think maybe it's you, because maybe your sports team picking is not the brightest. But I mean, you know, there's been some good times in all of those, so it's not horrible.
Oh, yeah.
But it's
They
just
sure have been.
It's just unfortunate you're on a downswing right now for almost every single one of those. So that's tough. I guess there's no sports really to look forward to then.
No, and to add on to that it's just made me completely knackered this week. And don't forget Arsenal women. Throw them into the mix this week too. They lost as well. So, Josh, I hope you have some good news for me. I want to be cheered up.
Right.
I'm looking for the light at the end of the Galaxy tunnel.
Yes.
You know?
I don't know. It was funny because after the press conference, Kevin was texting me. He's like, well, did Vanney convince you they're going to win the MLS Cup this year? And I'm like, he is surprisingly convincing whenever you listen to him. Monday was my grumpy day. So, and if anybody didn't catch the Monday podcast, while I was told that I don't know what I'm talking about many times in the comments section, I was rather grumpy and I think relatively on point as well. I'm not going to say I was off base or anything. It wasn't like I was being grumpy for grumpy's sake. But there's something about talking to people and seeing things happen and sort of there was no excitement. I'm a little more excited for this season now. It's sort of like, okay, well, you say you have a plan. Let's see you work this plan then. Please entertain me. It's one of those.
One of those, as opposed to the Joaquin Phoenix. Are you not entertained? No, we're not currently. And I will give that first presser a yellow card.
A yellow card for the first. It was, you didn't ask any questions. That's why it was boring.
I did not, because I had the Arsenal game going. I'm going to be honest and transparent. I had the Arsenal game going. Mm-hmm. I could hear your dulcet tones, which is always just wonderful. And is Greg growing his hair out? His hair looked a little longer, didn't it? Hey,
how dare that man be able to just shave his beard, put the beard back on. He complained about Scott French, who's a longtime MLS reporter.
Who hasn't complained about
right.
Scott?
Well, no, he didn't complain about Scott French. That was the thing. But Scott, he says, Scott said something. He said, "Oh, Greg, it's good to see you." And Greg goes, "Oh, it's good to see you too." He goes, "Actually, you know what? I don't see you on the Zoom call, right?" And Scott goes, "Well, that's because I black it out because then I would have to get out of bed and then I'd have to comb my hair." And Greg, with this perfect little like tousled coif on the top of his head, right? It looks like it was the bed head that like turned into something golden. He's one of those guys. He complains about his hair. He's like, "Oh, so you don't have to comb your hair?" I'm like, "You, sir, how dare you try to tell us that doesn't look good?" It's annoying. The man is annoying.
He looked very fresh.
Oh, so annoying.
He looked like almost like he had a tan, but a natural one, not like, cream, added cream. He looked very good.
That man is older than me, Sophie.
Is he really?
Yes, he is. And if we stood side by side, there would be 0 people who would guess he is older than me. I don't think he's considerably older than me. I'm trying to remember how old he is. Is he 47 or 43? It was one of those, and I can't remember. But I'm 40. So he's not considerably older than me. But if we stood next to each other, one, you would be like, "Oh, look, there's a fully formed adult." Whenever you look at Greg, right? Me, you're like still kind of a child. But
Josh, the good news is he will not be looking like that mid-season. You will be looking fresh and younger. He looks that way now because nothing's begun.
It's like the presidency, right? He's going to age as the season ages as well. So
Exactly.
Okay, I'll have that. I'll have that to look forward to. But I mean, seriously though, how dare he be able to? If I shave this off, and I have my goatee that I've been now wearing for a couple of years now, because my wife says, "Wow, you finally look like a man." So I'm never going to shave it off.
Wow.
Because I know.
Wifey.
She's good.
Yes.
She's a keeper. So she said that, but like, if I shaved this off, everybody would make fun of me. Greg Vanney shaves his off, and everybody's like, "Oh," and then he puts his glasses on. Everybody's like, "Oh, look at Greg. Oh, yeah." If I tried to do that, it wouldn't work. He can pull away. So anyway, his tousled hair at the press conference, if you watch that, he did complain about the fact that he forgot to brush his hair, and again, it looks perfect. So good job, Greg. Yeah, nobody's buying it.
No.
All right, let's get through the housekeeping. There's a lot of housekeeping to get through just because a lot of announcements happened after our Monday night show. And that happens. And
you love that, don't you, John?
No, I don't. And usually I like to try to get a heads up that that's going to happen so I can at least be like, "Hey, there's going to be some announcements tomorrow." And everybody was busy and there was a holiday on Monday, so that really didn't happen. So blah, 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 whole deal. Anyway, so announcements on Tuesday came out. The LA Galaxy, the first one is the LA Galaxy signed 27-year-old goalkeeper Richard Sanchez. And everybody says, who? And why? And a whole bunch of other stuff. And I think that's probably a little unfair. Actually, in terms of a backup goalkeeper at 27 years old, a guy with a ridiculous amount of experience, has been to a bunch of places, won a U17 World Cup with Mexico in 2011. That's not a small thing. But obviously that was a long time ago as well as 10 years ago, 11 years ago. So when you look at that, you sort of have to put it in. Was an FC Dallas Academy product, played for the Chicago Fire for 3 seasons, which is maybe where a lot of people have sort of seen him, was down with USL last year. But here's the interesting thing is that before his signing, Sophie, the LA Galaxy had 2 goalkeepers on the roster, Jonathan Bond, Jonathan Klinsmann. The other goalkeepers that they had in, they have since departed with. The Galaxy carried 4 goalkeepers last year. Justin Stieg was one of them. I'm trying to think of who the other one that they were said that they were trying to. Eric Lopez was the other one that they said they were going to try to re-sign and get back on there as well. But that doesn't seem to be happening. And Justin Stieg has departed, so that's not happening. So the Galaxy just had 2. Usually they get a younger-ish goalkeeper that's going to spend most of his time down in Galaxy 2, right? And do that. And then you still have a third goalkeeper, but, they're down getting minutes and doing that stuff. That's what Stieg did. And with Eric Lopez as well. So they had that going. Here you have a 27-year-old guy who has a bunch of experience, played some time in USL, so he could certainly go down with LA, but he doesn't fit the usual stats for a Galaxy 2 guy. He's older. He has way more experience than most of those guys do. So it's an interesting one. Is he perhaps pushing for the number 2 spot ahead of Jonathan Klinsmann? Because Jonathan Bond is the clear number 1.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, so what's going on? I mean, it's just interesting.
27 is a really good age for a goalkeeper. In Europe, that's prime, right? I get what you mean about the age criteria and strategy with lag and stuff like that. But do you think there's a scenario? Have you heard rumblings? Do you think there's a scenario where maybe Klinsmann wants to be a number one guy? I mean, he's got the confidence. I think he's got the talent to play somewhere as a number one.
Right. You usually have to wait for goalkeepers to like get injured or like fall over in the middle of a game in order for the number two to get to play. And Jonathan Bond talked about being the number two guy behind a goalkeeper who didn't miss like a game in 3 years, right? So I mean, that sort of happens. And Bond for the most part started every game except for whenever Klinsmann came in and got the shutout that one time that caused a little bit of controversy and a little bit of angst amongst Galaxy fans, stuff like that. So.
It doesn't make sense in terms of how the Galaxy do stuff, and it would make sense if they were going. And obviously, Jonathan Bond is the number one guy.
Yes,
I think Klinsmann could do a job somewhere else. Do you think he's a better goalkeeper than Klinsmann? I haven't seen him play too much, so I can't really say.
I can't give you that. He was not great with Chicago, but Chicago hasn't been great.
He's great with Chicago.
It hasn't. Mike McGee, the last time Chicago was great, Mike McGee was great with the whole thing. So, I mean, it's just interesting in terms of if you want to pay attention to a third string goalkeeper getting signed, there's at least some question marks in here that say he may push Jonathan Klinsmann for the number two spot. So come opening day when the Galaxy face off against New York City FC, which, by the way, only 38 days until kickoff.
Wow,
from
really?
Right now. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's around the corner. LA Galaxy versus New York City FC, February 27th. This 2 p.m. kickoff time at Dignity Health Sports Park. You can get your tickets out there already. 38 days away. That's what you're looking for. But in 38 days, should the bench fill up and Richard Sanchez be the number two, that would be an interesting turn of events for Jonathan Klinsmann and everybody else. So it's just something to watch as we go. And again, a little outside the profile that the Galaxy usually get for a second guy. So that's one. That was our first housekeeping item. We are complete with that. Richard Sanchez, we don't have to talk about that probably again for the rest of the year unless that actually does happen and there is a Galaxy 2.
You can circle back to this soundbite, Josh.
Right? Oh, this will be me the second game. So, Richard Sanchez is on the bench. All right. So that was first. The second one was something that we knew was coming with Victor Vazquez. We had talked about Victor Vazquez signing a 1+1 deal again. This is similar to his contract last time. We don't know how much that is in terms of what the actual cost is. I would imagine that the option, showed at least similar to what it was going to be, last year. So last year he made $400,000 at the base, and I would imagine his option was somewhere around there, maybe $420 because it gets bumped up. The Galaxy declined that option, so I imagine that there's some cost savings here for the Galaxy with Victor Vazquez. I don't expect it. I bet it's like $20,000. I bet it's like $380 is the base, and that's and then the option again would be another $20,000 to a $400 base. So there's all these things. I imagine they did it to wiggle some cap space around in terms of how they wanted to do it. And I also imagine Victor Vazquez always knew as soon as he was done with last season that he was coming back. I don't think there was any question about that.
Yeah. And then the giveaway was on the plane, wasn't it, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, we had that video and we were playing it. We're like, it was one of those, and you can usually.
What do you think about that? Because the team has gone younger, and then here's someone who's beyond the twilight of his career. He's not going to start every game, is he? But his experience,
didn't last year, right?
And he didn't know, but you could tell towards the end of the season, and of course, injuries don't help, do they, when you're at that point in your career too? But he's good to have around, I guess, in terms of experience and with the young players. We'll see, but I guess it was tough for Vanney to cut that umbilical cord on Vazquez.
This quote said it all for me. And I imagine that, most of the time I will tell you that the PR quotes that are in the things are made up by PR people that sound similar to something the coach may say or that type of thing. I have a feeling Vanney said this. Victor is one of the most intelligent soccer players that I've ever been around. We're thrilled to bring him back for another season. And that was from Greg Vanney. And, player coach, we talk about so much. We've talked about him possibly being a player coach at one point where he can actually be paid to be a coach and also be paid to be a player. We said the same thing with Sacha Kljestan. They've re-signed them both. I'll tell you this, even with all the recent additions and with an addition we're going to talk about here a little bit later, the LA Galaxy's average age is still under 25. The median age, by the way, is 25 as well. So it's 24.92, by the way. And I think today is Victor Vazquez's birthday. So I think he's 35 right now.
Happy
today.
birthday.
So you get that. So having said that, the Galaxy's still a very nice number in terms of their average age at 25. Now we'll see what the starting lineup ends up being in terms of, what that is. Here's the thing with Victor Vazquez. He's expensive because of the international slot that he takes up still. And so the LA Galaxy, in terms of everybody they have signed right now, technically have 8 of 8 spots filled internationally, but we're expecting that Carlos Harvey gets a green card. By the way, Taro FC, which is where the LA Galaxy purchased him whenever he was originally on loan to LA Galaxy 2 from Taro. Galaxy went and purchased him, and now he's a full LA Galaxy player. He's been training with Taro FC like this whole preseason, and they keep posting pictures of him, and people keep asking me, and I asked the Galaxy last week, I go, Carlos Harvey, is he gone? Is he going to stay with Toro? And I was told he was just doing preseason with them. So I asked if he was here in camp, and I haven't got a response yet. But regardless of that,
that's very cool if it's of his own volition.
Yeah, and it seems like it was, and it seems like they were like, "Hey, come play," and the whole deal. And I think they probably liked the publicity of it too, right? Oh, here's an LA Galaxy player playing with us, the whole deal. I'm just checking to see if I got any. No, I didn't get a response. So I will, it would be like, I'll talk about it for 10 minutes and I'll look down and like, oh, here's the answer. So however that is, he's supposed to get a green card, so his international slot shouldn't count. So technically Galaxy have 7 of 8 filled, so they have 1 available right now, which is interesting because Greg Vanney was talking a bunch today about adding 3 more players, and we'll get to that here in just a little bit as well. And he's talking about, we have a limited number of international slots, Sophie. And so here you used one on a 35-year-old Victor Vazquez, who still started 21 games last year, 28 games played. I mean, he played a large majority of the games. Most of that was not a full 90 minutes. In fact, I don't know that he went 90 minutes, all of that. But having said that, he was a consistent part of this Galaxy team. So I guess bringing him back is good for the cohesiveness going forward, but I wonder what diminished role he's going to play, or if there's going to be a diminished role for him this year.
I don't think that Vanney would want to sign him up again for another year if he wasn't going to have a role to play somehow. I think that it'd probably be a carbon copy of last season, but in the hope that he stays fit as he can. And let's be honest, the midfield was a bit of a shambles at times last season.
Yeah.
And, that's not because of Vazquez, of course. We saw the kind of decline of Dos Santos, Leggett, and he had some, personal catastrophes that they had to deal with in life, which I'm sure took their toll on them as players. But, Vazquez is a professional. I think he can offer the team something still in moments. The same way I'd like to see him do it at a level that Sasha did it last season. Josh, right. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I mean, you can't. Anytime Sasha Kleshin was on the field, and granted, it was limited as well, just because of his age and where he was.
But he
had
an impact, didn't he? He had more of an impact.
Vazquez was 3rd on the team in goals and assists per 90. Right, so that's high. Chicharito was number 1. Chicharito was number 1. Joveljic was number 2. And then number 3 was Victor Vazquez, and then Sasha Kleshin was right in there as well. So I mean, they're right on top of each other. So both of those guys had a real effect. Now, I think Vazquez was more front-loaded than it was towards the end, right? He sort of faded into the season, and I think Sasha got stronger as the season went on, which is kind of crazy for a guy.
I think the difference for them though is not to have to use them when we're chasing a game. They're the ideal players when you're ahead. If LA Galaxy can learn to keep a lead this season, that would be great. But they're not going to be the type of players that you bring on when you're chasing a game. You need them, I think, in a different type of scenario with their age and the mileage that they have on those legs. But are you disappointed that they've used the international slot on him? Would you have liked to have seen something different in comparison to salary as well? Or
maybe. I don't know. That's always such a toss-up whenever you look at the pluses and minuses. I mean, Greg talked a little bit about it today, which was, hey, we know we're up against international slots, so we had to go in league for some guys. So that's why you got guys like Raheem Edwards and Kelvin Leerdam, which, by the way, Kelvin Leerdam seems like the most chill dude ever. I
like him.
But just like he goes, because I asked him what he brings, and he's like, I don't get excited about anything. And like he's in the press conference not being excited.
No,
right? Like his heartbeat did not raise. It was
he sat like one of those, like in college where you just, or school where you're just like this.
Yep.
Did not show any emotion
No.
whatsoever.
And I do kind of like that for a defender, right? Defender's like, hey, he was like, whenever things get bad, you have to trust that basically, everything's going to be all right. And it's like, yeah,
and
man.
also, look who, I mean, he's played with Wijnaldum, he's played with Van Bronckhorst.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the dude has, I think, had a really decent career. I think he could be a really good signing.
Yeah, I really like him in terms of, and they talked about him possibly playing right center back as well. So perhaps there's a starting spot for him, not just at right back, because Julian Araujo should be there. By the way, let's get this out of the way because this happened just before we started. Was Julian Araujo has been called up by Mexico for their internationals. Somebody said this was a surprise, and they were like, oh, this could be the surprise call up. And I'm like, that's not really a surprise for Julian Araujo. He played really well in their friendly last time. He was one of the better players on the field. You would imagine that Tata was like, hey, we need Julian Araujo on this field to be defense and provide some offense. So anyway, that was just
Arsenal's future backup to Tomiyasu at right back.
No, you say that, it was funny because Dennis DeClose, obviously with Feyenoord now, went and they got Cole Bassett from Colorado. And I'm like, Dennis always be scouting, right? And I was I'm almost, maybe somebody should text him and be like, leave Araujo alone. Just leave it alone, Dennis, that type of thing. But yeah, super, super interesting. So Julian Araujo gets called up, but Julian Araujo is the starter at right back. If he's gone for international, you have a guy like Kelvin Leerdam who is absolutely experienced in this league. Greg Vanney talked about this as well. He says we have more guys who have won MLS Cups. We have more guys who have played in playoff games. All of that has increased this year. And so they were sort of trying, I think this was some of the trying to compare the last year at this time to this year at this time, right? And he goes, we're so far ahead because, he said, I have almost 30 players who are back in camp right now. Last year, I think we had like 15 or 17, and he goes, so there's this feeling that we don't have to start from scratch, that we're already building on building blocks. And he goes like, so, he was feeling good. Again, Greg will make you think that you're going to win an MLS Cup in the first day. So everybody keep that in mind. But I also appreciate that sort of confidence in what he's trying to do. He has to believe that what he's doing is right.
Absolutely.
Because if he doesn't, then they're not going to believe it. The players aren't going to believe it. Then it doesn't happen. And we've seen too much of that where guys have said, well, I'm going to fix everything, and then they don't fix anything. And Vanney keeps saying, I'm going to fix everything. So really interesting. So for Leerdam, I think they went in league and a guy who has a green card.
I like that signing.
Raheem Edwards is another interesting sort of signing, just in terms of its depth. And I think it was at the proper price. He also has, let me see, does
he seem too much like a journeyman for his age?
Yes, and so there's this weird thing, and
I
was talking to Kevin about this, and to Larry, by the way. Larry says hi. I was talking to Larry, and he goes, it's never good whenever anybody's played for this many teams and the whole deal. And I go, I agree with that 80% of the time, but in MLS, there are these weird guys who make a certain amount of money who just sort of fit. They you can't keep them for a couple of years because they would get too expensive, right? So then they move them off, and then they sit there and they go back to they're just these guys that get plugged in as depth pieces that can bounce from team to team and be perfectly nice players. And so ultimately, and we talked about this, this is a backup, sort of position for Raheem Edwards. And so I don't know that anybody needs to worry and stress about this, but he will get some minutes, and we'll see if he's able to do what he's doing. The Galaxy
is he the first one to cross over enemy lines?
The first permanent one, because Nico Hamalainen played for LAFC.
Forget about Nico,
yeah, but the first permanent one. So, and he was asked about that today too. He was sort of like, some people are going to like it, some people are going to hate it. He goes, I'm just here to play. He specifically said, I'm just here to put trophies in the LA Galaxy's trophy cabinet. Well played. I mean, if you're gonna sell it, there's some things you can say. That's something you can say to sell things. I always appreciate it when you press the right buttons in a press conference.
I had to duck out at that point to watch Arsenal lose to Liverpool. But yeah, I mean, of course, what's he going to say? It's a bit of an underwhelming signing. But I mean, you said, if you need depth, then fine.
There are going to be 30 players on this roster, whether anybody likes it or not, right? I mean, you're going to have 30 players on the roster. There's going to be guys you may never see the entire season. I think Edwards is going to get some sub minutes. I think he's going to be plugged into positions in order to be able to make a difference. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping not whenever defense is needed, because I think he's more of an offensive, go forward sort of, wing back type of player. But in a position where you need a goal and you need some speed and you want to put somebody out there who can cause and create some chances, I think that he can do that. Is he going to be, lights out? you don't know because of his age. I think he's 26. And so he's right at that age where you're like, if he's going to take a step forward, this would be the time to take a step forward, right?
You'd think.
So in the prime, Vanney has done this now with a couple of these guys.
You're drinking the Vanney Kool-Aid already.
It's the hair. It's the hair, and it flusters me, and I don't appreciate that man doing that. So anyway, yes, it could absolutely be a mean nothing signing. And I think you get 5 of those probably every year where you're like, okay, who cares, right? That could be Raheem Edwards. I just have a feeling that him wanting to come was because he talked to Greg about what he wanted, and he had some other offers. And Leardam was the same way. And he said, I talked to the coaching staff. He goes, and they made me want to come here. And they kept calling. They kept saying, have you made a decision yet? We want you to come here. Have you made a decision yet? It was one of those. So, persistent in sort of how they were doing. So,
I believe Leardam had other offers.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the latter. Yeah.
Well, hey, everybody's. I had offers to go other places. Corner of the galaxy can go anywhere really when you think about it. Let's get to the news that is close to my heart. The news that I broke earlier this week. The LA Galaxy are signing 26-year-old Marky Delgado. Delgado coming from Toronto FC. The terms of that trade, and I was able to verify this, although there was another reporter. It was funny. I reported that Marky Delgado, when they were finalizing things, basically waiting for league approval on stuff. And then another reporter said, I had been hinting at this, and I go, this is the thing, and I can confirm that this is also happening. But it was a Toronto reporter. And then the next day, the Toronto reporter had the terms, and then I was able to find and confirm those terms with somebody. And so then we swap back and forth. I'm like, I can confirm. I'm like, look, we're switching places. I can confirm these numbers. And so we know what the trade is. There's some interesting stuff here. We're still waiting on league approval, and there's a part of me that's saying that the league is balking a little bit at making Delgado a TAM player, target allocation money player. Delgado made like $581 last year, $581,000 last year with Toronto. That's below the TAM threshold. You have to be above $612,500, and if you're above that, then you have to have some mechanism to bring you down. And so TAM is one. You could use general allocation money as well, but TAM right now is all discretionary, which basically means nobody has to spend it. It's your money if you want to spend it, but it's your money, right? It's the Galaxy's money, and they're going to spend it if they want to. So they have this TAM money, and they probably can use that to bring his salary well down within the cap. And so whenever you look at how everything goes, they can use a small amount of TAM really to bring him below the cap and into cap space. So when you hear TAM signing, it's not like he's going to make the max at $1.6 million. He's not going to go from 580 all the way up to $1.6 million. And I think people obviously think, well, he can't be a TAM player. And I heard this a lot, Sophie, which was he's going to take up a TAM slot then. Well, there are no TAM slots. There's just an amount of money. And you can have as many TAM players as you want, as long as you still have money in order to pay down their salaries below the salary cap, right? That's how it is. So if you pay somebody just above the TAM ceiling and they're a TAM player, that means that you might have room for 2 more rather large TAM spends on the backside of that as well. So you could end up having 3 TAM players instead of maybe sometimes like the Galaxy would have maybe 1 or 2, right? So this is something to look forward to. And Greg acknowledged that today, talking about it and saying, we think we have room for 2 more TAM players and a designated player. So the trade with Toronto, Sophie, $400,000 in general allocation money with $100,000 in incentives. So total, if everything went through, would be $500,000 in general allocation money. Just a reminder, Sebastian Lletget went for $500,000 guaranteed in general allocation money split between this year and next year. And then $800,000 in incentive base that would take it up to $1.3 million. Here's the thing about Marky Delgado. Is that he's going to come in at 500 and Sebastian Lletget was sold for, we'll say 1.3. That's not technically true, but let's just say 1.3. And so there's a significant savings here. And when you run the numbers, Marky Delgado's numbers aren't that far off from Sebastian Lletget's numbers. And so people were calling him a Lletget replacement, and I would push back against that, just saying they're not like for like, because Marky Delgado is not an offensive threat like Sebastian Lletget is supposed to be. He's more of a defensive guy. So they're not like for like, but it means the Galaxy could still go out and get another TAM player that is more of a direct replacement for or as a DP in that central attacking midfielder role that Marky Delgado is not going to play. So
Leggett wasn't much of an offensive threat.
he was supposed to be.
Sorry, that's very cheeky. I love Saber. That was just a cheap shot on my behalf. I apologize.
No, it's fine. Well, I'll tell you. The Hammer said this is the most okayest signing that he's ever seen. He's like, okay, it's not
it's
exciting.
a decent. It's not, but it's, you know what it is. It's someone who has experience in the league, right? He's played over 100 and something games for Toronto. He's been part of a championship winning team, Supporters Shield winning team, and he's still only, is he 27 or is he's 27?
26.
26.
Yeah. He will turn 27 in May, so he's not too far away from it, but still, he's 26. He's prime.
I think it's a decent signing.
It is a decent signing, and here's why Galaxy fans are going to hate him. All right, and I've already told you this. The Galaxy fans are going to hate him. He works so hard in the middle of the field to break up plays. His interception numbers are outstanding. There's some really interesting stats. Tom Bogert had some stats on him and sort of listed the top 6 guys in distance covered per 90 minutes. All right. Marky Delgado is right there at number 4 in the league in 2021, covering almost 11 kilometers per 90 minutes. He does not stop. He does not quit running. He will just work and work and work, but he's not an offensive threat. If you go and look at his offensive numbers, they're not there. You're not going to find them. But his interceptions are really high. His pressing, this is so cool. Let me just brag about the Discord for a little bit. One of our Discord members, Cam, was like, well, let me compare Delgado's 21 season to Jonathan Dos Santos and Leggett and Atuesta and Joao Paulo, and Moreno. And so he wanted to he had these like-for-like players. Let's see how they sort of come out in the head-to-head. And if you look at the offensive numbers, these guys are going to be ahead of Marky Delgado. But whenever you get into some of the defensive actions, he has more pressing than like twice as much as Jonathan Dos Santos. So presses, he had almost 600 presses in 2021. Jonathan Dos Santos had 330. All right. So the amount of work that he does to pressure the ball is an extreme amount. So, there's going to be some guys who like him because he works really hard, but there's going to be a lot of people who are like, well, when's he going to start scoring goals? That's not his thing. That's like Nigel de Jong, complaining about Nigel de Jong. I'm not saying that Marky Delgado is Nigel de Jong, but I'm saying don't compare, don't argue about the defender who doesn't score goals, right?
But that was a big problem last season, wasn't it? In terms of that gaping, we used to all the time, especially when we were there watching games, like that gaping hole between the midfield and the defense. And I know the defense got a lot of stick last season, but they had zero protection. And towards the end of the season, it just got worse. And this is why, like, when you have an aging player in Sasha, you've got Vazquez. You need a Rottweiler. And for me, I think he could be LA Galaxy's Rottweiler. And the other thing with him, and I don't want to go too over the top here, but I think he's the type of signing and he's the type of player that could become a cult hero very quickly. I know he's played for Toronto. Someone in chat was talking about they'd played for Chivas.
He did.
I think that he's the type of player that can come in and have an immediate impact because Galaxy lacked all of those qualities that you just talked about, Josh, for the majority of last season. And I think in the end, the midfield cost the team greatly towards the end of the season. They were lackluster. There was no energy. There was no cohesiveness. They exposed the backline completely. The backline was always under pressure. And I think that, I don't know, maybe you could rewind this soundbite at some point in the season, but I think it's a decent signing for this particular team at this particular time.
This is interesting, and I didn't mention this with Richard Sanchez, the goalkeeper, originally from Mission Hills, California. Marky Delgado, originally from Glendora, California. These are guys who are coming home too, right? So it's one of those. And Marky Delgado was with Chivas USA for a couple seasons, went up to Toronto, and who did he play for in Toronto? Oh, that's right, Greg Vanney. And
It's coming home. It's coming home.
but you and I were joking beforehand. What did you say whenever I said all these former Toronto players?
Yeah, is this like Toronto? Is this Galaxy Toronto FC? And
Yeah.
you said
I said, oh, you mean like Bruce Arena did whenever he came, and what Bruce Arena is doing in New England? Look at all the former Galaxy players Bruce Arena has collected over there on the East Coast.
And what was my response? I'm like, well, it's Bruce.
Yeah, it's Bruce. I like Bruce. You know the whole deal. It's one of those. So I don't mind that. You talked about Raheem Edwards as well, and I think he had some time with Greg Vanney coming up at Toronto, right? Early in his career too. So it was like sort of he got his shot with Greg Vanney, and those guys believed in him. That was the first time he played like 21 games in a season was with Greg Vanney at Toronto. And so again, you have these guys who already are coaches like to bring in their guys, right? We know this. This is like coaching 101 is you're going to bring in the guys that you trust. Look at Victor Vazquez, right? I think Sasha Kljestan has become a Greg Vanney guy 100%. So Greg is 100% in on Sasha, right? So, but he has guys that he wants to trust, right? And the guys who trust him. And if you build that enough and it permeates the team, then you will get more out of a team than a team that doesn't trust that the coach is even going to be here beyond next year. Right.
Yes.
And so I think that's important. So $500K total on the signing, Marky Delgado coming. Again, waiting on league approval, have been for now like 2 or 3 days. I haven't heard there's any issues, but I would not be surprised if they're like grumbling about TAM players because they don't like it whenever you take a guy who wasn't making target allocation money and now all of a sudden he's making target allocation money. It's like you can give him more of a raise on TAM and then buy him down and he has less of a salary cap. They don't like that. And they have stopped trades from happening before. I don't think that's going to happen because I don't think the Galaxy would have done it if that was the case.
That'd be a little harsh.
And Greg, Damien asked a little bit to Greg today and was like, hey, I think another one of your Toronto guys is coming to join you. And Greg sort of said, yeah, like he acknowledged it without saying Marky Delgado's name. I think if I'm Damien, I just would have been like, you mean Marky Delgado? You know, that guy? Just to sort of get it there on the record. So Marky Delgado coming to the LA Galaxy as far as I know still, and that trade with Toronto should go. I'm hoping if it gets approved tomorrow, they will announce it tomorrow because I think he might be here already and he might be training and they're trying not to show him in any training. So that's one of the things people forget at this time of year is that they're trying to give out pictures and they're trying to show videos and stuff, but there's like, 4 guys they can't show because it's not official and they're not supposed to be here and they're not supposed to be training yet. So that's always
incoming presser on Monday.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if he'll get a press conference, but you might get an announcement. I think you're going to get an announcement the next time we have media availability. It's not a DP. If it was a DP, I'd be like press conference. TAM player, lower TAM player. He's going to be a starter, but I don't know.
Well, there were the two players today. But that was the first one of the season,
the first one,
guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It was. By the way, that was the first, and we have talked about it many times on the show, but it was the first time the LA Galaxy had a media call since the last game where the Galaxy missed out.
We never got that end of season media call, did we?
Nope.
That was poor.
Nope. So anyway, that's where we're at with Marky Delgado. Did we talk about Goalkeeper yet? Which they didn't call Goalkeeper, so already giant fail.
Who's coined that? Who coined that?
Somebody in Twitterland coined Goalkeeper, and it is absolutely what it should be called. So we were just going to call this Goalkeeper, and we will not call it the Coachella Valley Invitational, which sounds like Cobra Kai is going to fight Daniel LaRusso at. That's not what we're going to... Every time I hear the Coachella Valley Invitational, I'm just like, you're the best. Oh, no. Yeah, so I... God, have you watched any of Cobra Kai? Okay.
No, I love Karate Kid so much. I don't want to ruin this. So is it good? Should I watch it?
There are some nostalgia moments in there where like I legit get some goosebumps, but I don't know if it's... I stopped watching it, so maybe I'll get back to it. I don't know. But anyway.
Unless Elizabeth Shue shows up at some point, I'm not interested.
Does she? She might.
No.
I can't remember. Does she show up? Somebody would have to. I didn't watch it that long. I haven't watched that many of it.
Okay.
So anyway, the Goalkeeper or the Coachella Valley Invitational is happening as we had originally told you it was. I think the delay, one, was because of all the travel and trying to get all the teams into different places and who's playing who and where are you going and blah, 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 all that stuff. Because despite the fact that we pretend that MLS is a well-oiled machine, because it's not, a lot of these decisions happen at like the drop of a hat, and all of a sudden teams are like, okay, I guess we're going to Coachella. I guess we're going to head out there for spring training. Here's the big deal about this and why it's not a big deal this year. But you're not allowed to go. That's why it's not a big deal this year, right? And I'm going to read the quote because I like watching Sophie get angry. This is from Chris Klein. We're excited to add a new preseason competition that helped grow the game of soccer in an area in Southern California known for entertainment. We are grateful to the Empire Polo Club, Golden Voice, and AEG for helping to bring soccer to Coachella Valley. And Sophie's like, how is it helping growing the game if nobody can go there?
I text you, right? Yep. I'm texting Josh at like 7 a.m. in the morning. What is this? Look at his quote. And being a PR person, I mean, I know that someone probably crafted that, but you know, the executives I've worked with always like to see the press release before it goes out.
Right.
How is it growing anything when nobody can go?
Okay, so here is the hope. And I will say, and I can't even, I will give you the blue sky version of what could possibly happen this year and what's going to eventually happen. What could possibly happen this year is that they're going to stream those games, and so you're going to be able to see them, and you're going to get excited because next year they're expecting that you're going to go out to this. This is going to be an event. You're going to want to go to the desert. You're going to want to drive out to Palm Springs to watch a Galaxy preseason game. You're going to bring your chairs. You're going to sit down next to the field. This is what I'm imagining. I don't know if they're going to have like stands. I hope they don't have stands. I want it like real spring training. You bring your folding chair, you set it down, you open your cooler, right? You have a beer and you get to watch preseason soccer like preseason baseball is a thing where you go to Arizona. You're going to want to go this. And I think
sounds like an AYSO event.
Right? And why wouldn't you? I mean, you're having professional soccer players rumble 6 feet in front of you while you're sitting on the sideline in a cozy chair with your big umbrella hat on because it's still the desert in the middle.
Yeah, I'll
and
be
it's
down
sunny,
for that.
Right? I mean, it sounds fun and it sounds like something you want to do. Now, that's not happening this year. So you can't do that this year. But eventually, that's what they want to do. This is the first annual Coachella Valley Invitational, which is the inaugural Coachella Valley Invitational, which is always funny because inaugural could also be the last one, right? This is the first one, could also be the last one. You never know what they decide to do next year. But that's why this is a thing. The big deal out of this is just that, and somebody goes, why should I be excited about this? I go, there's 2 reasons why you should care about this. Is 1, maybe they're going to stream some games, and 2, you now know the LA Galaxy's full preseason schedule. You know they're going to play games. You know where they're at, and you can do all this. So we know that on Saturday, January 15th, the LA Galaxy, Dignity Health Sports Park, they've already reported. Then we know we have a closed door scrimmage the Galaxy are playing in on Saturday, January 29th, which is next weekend against Toronto FC. Then we know that the LA Galaxy will host New England Revolution, Bruce Arena, on Saturday, February 5th at Dignity Health Sports Park. That one is open to fans. You can get your tickets. Then we know the Galaxy are going to the Empire Polo Club for 2 games, one on Thursday against Seattle and one on Sunday, February 13th against New York Red Bulls. And then finally, they have a closed-door scrimmage at Dignity Health Sports Park on Wednesday, February 16th, and February 19th is the last preseason game. You can attend it, LA Galaxy versus DC United, and it looks like the Paul Arriola-less. That was not, I don't think I ever want to say that again. But anyway, Paul Arriola, not with DC United, actually looks like he went to FC Dallas for $2 million in general allocation money. Just remember, Sebastian Lletget only got $1.3 million. And that wasn't even all guaranteed.
So overrated.
Overrated, but also the Lletget deal was underfunded, and I will say that for me, I think it was because Lletget wanted to go to New England, and the Galaxy were like, "All right, we'll let you go to New England." I think Bruce was in Lletget's ear the whole time, being like, "I'm going to steal you from the LA Galaxy, and I'm going to make this happen," and he did. So he got a good deal. So
can I ask you a question, Josh? There's 100,000 people at a college football game.
Okay.
There are 85,000 people at the NFL playoffs. SoFi Stadium, just the other night, packed house.
Yep.
Come on now. Why aren't fans able to go to Coachella?
Why can't 3,500 LA Galaxy fans with their chairs? I don't know. And I would imagine that they figured that with the cost and expense it would take to sort of manage the security and all that stuff with the fans and have it being like this limited capacity for this year and just a whole bunch of other things. I imagine they said, it's not worth it to dump a whole bunch of money into that this year, but let's start it this year and then we could maybe build another yellow card. Wow. Somebody's going to get a red card here if we're not careful. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree. I can't explain it. And I'm not about to explain it. I will tell you that the Galaxy are thinking, and we were talking to Vicky today about it, but we're trying to figure out when is a good time for everybody to come back and attend training in person and do the calls. I've already made it clear that it's easier for me to have it done on a Zoom call, and I think I get the same out of it. I explained in the Discord what happens at training when we go. And the answer is not much. So why do I go to training whenever I can go? Is because I want Greg Vanney to see me there, and I want the Galaxy to see me there, and the players to see me there. And that's why I would go. That's the only reason, because I'm not going to see anything. They're going to show me the last 15 minutes of training, and that's when the guys are doing individual stuff. And, it's like, okay, I get to watch them, play a game, which is fun. And it's nice to see, and you get to see people interacting, but it's hardly, how they're prepping for the game and different
Offer
things like
you a one-on-one with Chicharito.
Yeah.
Offer you one-on-ones and you'll go. But 100% agree with you on that front. You can't ask the media to go and then it be the same format as it is here, where we could go pretty much every other day, and it's not down the street, but it's not going to Palm Springs, is it?
It's easier for me because I work and have 2 jobs, this job and then my
children.
And children. And I'm not going to be able to go to training in the middle of the week. That's not going to be a thing I can do. So that's just me. There's plenty of people and there's a lot of reporters. We'll figure that out. We'll get there and you'll do it. Hopefully we're providing good enough coverage for you that you don't miss that part of it. But anyway, we'll go. I want to continue on because we don't have a ton of time. We got about 15 minutes left, and Greg Vanney talked a lot during his press conference, although Sophie would say that it was all boring. And I don't disagree, but there were some important things that I think we have to cover. And can I switch topics before we even get to that? Because I wanted to get to the Pavon rumor real quick that's out there. There is a rumor out there about Cristian Pavon that reportedly has him already signed a pre-contract with the LA Galaxy. Now, this is not news. We have known about this for a very long time. Ever since Cristian Pavon left, we knew that he wanted to come back to the LA Galaxy. We knew that the Galaxy had a contract in place with him. Basically, it was the personal terms between a player and a club. And we knew that was set. I would imagine that's the pre-contract they're talking about again, and I would imagine that everybody's still happy with that, or they're saying, okay, well, if it comes to this, we could do that contract. There's some interesting things to it, though, which is, Boca only has a set amount of time until the transfer window closes basically around the world to get rid of Cristian Pavon and make some money off of him. They have been haggling with the price now forever. I mean, there's even rumors out there that Cruz Azul was offering $1.5 million and that Boca was thinking about taking it. And I said, well, if it's $1.5 million, the Galaxy are interested at $1.5 million. I'm like, that's nothing. So, there's 2 things that have to happen, though, and I think people get confused about this is Cristian Pavon has to want to go play somewhere, too. So if Cruz Azul or Club America want to buy Cristian Pavon, then they have to come to personal terms, which is something we just told you the Galaxy have already done with Cristian Pavon. And if Cristian Pavon doesn't want those personal terms, then he's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm good. I'll stay here until I'll play these next 6 months and then I'm out of here. My contract's up and I can go wherever I want. And he can force that into happening. And Boca can get absolutely $0 out of it.
Which is shocking.
Which would be shocking for them. They overplayed their hand multiple times on this, right? So the whole deal sort of goes that way. So if Cristian Pavon was motivated enough to want to come back to Los Angeles, he could sit on the contract, not agree to personal terms with anybody, wait for his contract to expire, and then come to the LA Galaxy on a free. Why that might matter is Cristian Pavon was making $1.2 million whenever he was with the Galaxy last time. You want to give him a raise to 1.6? He's still a TAM player at $1.6 million. You could get Cristian Pavon on a targeted allocation money deal and still bring a designated player. That's pipe dream stuff. I'm not saying that's happened, but the rumor at least is interesting enough that you sort of sit there and start to play scenarios out, and this is a scenario that could play out. So,
isn't it time to move on from this whole thing?
You would. There's part of me that says absolutely you should be more creative than this. You can find somebody else. You can do it. There's another part of me that says you have a guaranteed player can play in Major League Soccer. He's an MVP type player in the league because he was whenever he was here with the Galaxy.
Pre-injury.
Yeah, but I mean, even that, there doesn't seem to be a huge dip in form since he came back. Now, he doesn't like playing for Boca, which you have to take in. So, I mean, there's things to sort of look at and take. But if you're going to spend $1.3 or $1.4 million, that's not a lot of money to possibly get a league MVP.
Yeah, so, it's a calculated risk, but it's you're taking a risk on someone you already know and who's played in the league, like you said. However, going back to your ex is never a good idea.
There's definitely some of that. I'm trying to reserve judgment because I don't know which way this is going to go, and it's not that I have an opinion on both. I just gave them to you. Those are my things.
Yeah.
I am conflicted. And it's kind of hard to say whenever you have a known, because if you bring anybody else into Major League Soccer, Sophie, there's a question about whether or not they're going to perform, right? And so it's like with Cristian Pavon, he's kind of already proven that. I get it, pre-injury, and I will take that into consideration when I think about this. But at the same time, it's like you don't have that unknown. The Galaxy were extremely high on him. Dennis DeCloso used to go on about Cristian Pavon, just about what an extremely hard worker he is, what a wonderfully nice young man he is.
Josh, you just said something really important. I know we have to move on, but Toronto just threw a ton of money at Napoli's golden boy, the captain. That is a signature statement signing. Right. That is huge. He is still in his prime. Mm-hmm. LA Galaxy, it's just like, come on.
Well, I mean, here's the counter to that is the Galaxy can still sign a designated player.
Yes.
So they could technically get that signing. Now, I don't get that feeling that it's going to be on that level.
But it shouldn't be, right.
I get it. I know exactly what you're saying. I think they're going to miss.
City of stars.
I think right now they're going to miss on this DP. It's just everything about this preseason has told me that whatever they're thinking isn't going to work for this DP. It just there seems to be too much, almost like you're overthinking it, Sophie. There seems to be overthinking going on. I'm like, get a big name, somebody who's in their prime. Do what Toronto did. Now, I imagine Toronto laid the groundwork for that months ago. And so if the Galaxy weren't laying groundwork for that months ago, they're way behind. So anyway, let's talk about Greg Vanney. A little bit, because he spoke a ton today at our press conference, and it was good to have to be back and to see everybody's shiny faces again and smiling, and I had to learn how to ask questions again. I always find it funny that I get rusty in the off season of asking questions. I'm like, how do I do this again? Do I hit mute? When do I hit mute?
Josh's press conference royalty, guys.
Yeah.
You hear Vicky's voice saying, we're going to start off with Josh Guesman from Corner of the Galaxy.
I can usually, depending on who's on the call, I can usually tell which number I'm going to go, and every once in a while I get surprised. She'll just bump me up to the top, and I'll be like, oh, Damien's right there. He's first, not me. I'll be like Kevin and just start deferring. I defer my time to Damien Calhoun.
I donate my time.
Let's get to Greg Vanney. We're going to play some audio here. We're going to try to move quickly through it because we got about 8 minutes left. I want to make sure I get Sophie out of here on time tonight. So let's start with his upfront statement. This was not a question, just a tell us in general what you're back and what you think of the team. And so we'll get through that as we go. So here's Greg Vanney.
Yeah, very, very different off-season this year than last year in many ways. Last year as we were coming in, we had a vision for how we wanted to build a team. We had a lot of work to do on that side of building a team. We were talking about building culture. We're talking about a lot of things in a new regime and an older organization, but new regime. So a lot of that stuff is in a good position. So we feel like this year is about being more methodical, being really selective about our moves, continuing to grow on the culture that we've established, but we need to continue to build off of that. Again, player movement is being methodical to we understand what the core group of our team looks like. And now it's finding the pieces that really supplement and add another level, another layer to our team as we move into 2022. I can tell you after the first, day 4 of training, we were very, very much ahead of where we were at this point last year when we started preseason camp, and both just in our roster. I mean, I think last year, the first day of training, I think we maybe had 15 or 16 guys. We were at, close to 30 guys now. We're pretty full. And the ideas with the group and the understanding of what we're wanting to do is just at a whole different starting spot than where we were last year at this time. So we're happy about that. And yeah, we're back into business mode. And so this week has really been focused on reintroducing the guys to getting their fitness level, getting their legs under them, getting them familiar again with the ball and relationships with each other.
All right, we'll cut Greg off there for just a second, just because I know that we have 17 other things I want to cover for that. So, again, Greg's saying that they're well ahead of where they were last year at this time, and it's funny because I tweeted that out, and people were like, "Oh, you're 4 days into it. What are you on day 6 or 7?" And I get it. I get the teasing and the whole deal, but it's just I think it's a mindset thing. So it's a little bit different. Damian Calhoun's, went next and sort of talked about methodical. I think if you're going to give the press conference a word, it's methodical or maybe deliberate.
Calculated.
Calculated. Oh,
that sounds a bit like,
a buzzword. No, like it does sound naughty. I agree. It's like calculated. It's like, what am I going to do? I'm doing something bad that I shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
But methodical is probably the word. And so Damian sort of followed up on that and said, what are you doing with the players? So here's Greg Vanney talking about bringing in some more players.
I think, we are, I believe, with our recent additions, we still have 3 open spots on our primary roster, if I'm counting correctly. One's a DP spot and 2 potential TAM spots. So we still have good resources to work with, and we still think we can add players that can influence our group. And that work is underway. But again, like I said, there's some part of it is we want to remain with some flexibility as we move into latter stages of preseason and into the season. So we know as we see really how this group continues to evolve, we have some flexibility to add to this team where we need to, but we're getting to where we need to be. Again, the final pieces always are to finalize our DP spot and how that player will fit into our group, and then again, I think just again one or 2 more pieces in our midfield and maybe on the defensive side to help build our group, but we.
All right, there we go. A little more, Greg. Just so again, I want to highlight Sophie for this, and for me, it's possibly 2 TAM players and a designated player. Greg in here says that he has 3 spots available. I have 4. Again, our math is not adding up, and I've already added Marky Delgado, and in Greg's mind, he's already added Marky Delgado. I still think there's another signing that I don't know about that's in there somewhere that they're going to use a spot. It may not be a big one. It may be like somebody's getting a homegrown contract, and they're gonna take up a roster spot in that. So that's something to keep in mind. But designated player, and I asked when he wanted to get the designated player in. Greg was like, ideally tomorrow. Like they want that DP in earlier, and Greg went on. And Greg went on to say there isn't a long list of designated players who made an impact in the summer. Usually it's guys who have a little bit of preseason time, who have built through the team through the season that have a big impact. Now I can think of Robbie Keane as somebody who made an impact whenever he joined in the summer, but not everybody's Robbie Keane. Nicholas Ladero up in Seattle is one that immediately comes to mind as well, which you join in the center in the middle of the season and go tear things apart. But he's not wrong, and I understand why. So I have been told this as well. Galaxy are looking at DPs. He says they have looked at those targets. They have identified targets. There are multiple targets, both on the TAM side and the designated player side, and they're reaching out to those people on a regular basis. That was part of this. And if you want to hear the entire press conference, it's up on our website, cornerofthegalaxy.com, on our YouTube channel as well. 2 TAM, this is fun. They're asking, Harry in the chat room saying, 2 TAM counting Marky Delgado. No, he's already counting Delgado in his head, I'm telling you. So 2 more TAM and 1 designated player. He has 3 spots open in his mind, and that's sort of what he's saying. So I'm trying to think. The only other thing that was really the best thing was the Wet Noodle comment, right?
It's the highlight of the presser.
Yeah, I know. I got to find it. Let's see, Damian Calhoun.
I wonder if they can guess who he was talking about, and if you
they know this quote's everywhere. I tweeted it out immediately.
Okay,
I'm like he called Kevin Cabral a wet noodle. But he did it in the correct way. So here I have Greg Vanney. So here he is talking about Kevin Cabral and Grant Sear.
I think last year was a good year for them just in terms of understanding the league, understanding the challenges of the league. I think for both of them, they found the league more difficult than what they had probably anticipated it was going to be when they were getting on the plane and flying over here. And they quickly learned that they're going to have to adapt and continue to improve as players, but also improve with what we're trying to do as a group. I think they have that experience under their belt. They've gone through a season. They've have experiences that they didn't have last year when they got in here at this point. I think Kevin's gotten a lot stronger. A year ago when he came in, he was kind of like a wet noodle, and he hadn't touched a weight, and you could tell he needed to build his strength and he needed to get more explosive. So for this year for Kevin, it's a lot about final product. I mean,
all right, there's Greg Vanney talking about it. He says basically, that he had chances last year, and if he would have finished his chances, he would have scored 10 goals, right? And so this was Greg Vanney, I think, giving everybody a dose of reality. So apparently Cabral bulked up a little bit and is a little bit stronger. He'd have to be. because I agree with the Wet Noodle comparison there, Sophie.
Get the Wet Noodle t-shirts going. They will sell like hotcakes.
Can we do like stronger than a Wet Noodle? Like, is that like, does that make more, like, I want it to be a positive. I don't want it to be a negative, but stronger than a Wet Noodle. Yeah.
Absolutely. That would rock it.
Wet Noodle in quotation marks though, for sure.
Yes.
Stronger than a Wet Noodle or something like that. Yeah. So anyway, it's really interesting. Again, I implore you to go the whole call. There's Kelvin Leardam talks there. You can see how chill he is. Raheem Edwards seems like a good guy as well. It was nice just to talk to everybody and sort of see what they're thinking at this point. And Greg Vanney is positive. He thinks he's coming out on the right side of this, Soph.
You know, the good thing about that quote is that he knew he could say that about Kevin. And I think that's very interesting and that bodes well. Let's be honest, this is a massive season for both of those players. More so for Cabral, I think. He's really got to kind of grow into that. I can be a game-changing player. You can rely on me. And if there's injuries, I will put this team on my back. I know he's young, but like he said, you know, people who come from Europe, they get the shocker pretty quickly. Oh, it's tough here. You know, we've talked about it ad nauseum before with other players, the travel, the time zones, the elevation, you know, so massive season for him.
Cabral, over or under 10 goals?
Oh, you.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna say that's the line. I think that's the line is 10, and I would be surprised if he was right around 8 or 9, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was around 10, 11, just because I think that he gets put in the positions if he can finish. If
do you
there's
know
lots
what?
of ifs, yeah.
I killed him last season. A lot of us did, right? I am gonna say that he's gonna go over.
Right. Okay, I like it. Assists more than 5, less than 5.
More.
I like it. A 10-5 season would be outstanding for him.
11 and 6.
11 and 6. Oh, just the numbers. I love it. I love the optimism. You know, hey, why not? It's a preseason. If you can't be optimistic in the preseason, I remember David Bingham being like, we have a team to win the MLS Cup. And I was like, yes, you do, because it's the preseason and everybody thinks that.
Look, you said his numbers weren't that bad. I mean, okay, when you're an LA Galaxy player and you're in that position, fans expect a lot more, but the only way is up for him. And I think that he'll have a much better season. I really do.
Okay. I did. The only thing I'll close on is Farai Mutatu, who was on our podcast just a couple weeks ago. If you haven't listened to that one, please listen to it. It's so much. I have so much respect and admiration for this young man. It's ridiculous. And apparently Greg Vanney has some respect for him as well. We were told that Chicharito and Farai tied in the beep test, right? That's where you run back and forth on the beep. We talked about this. We were told that they tied, and Greg was rather emphatic that Farai won the beep test rather easily against everybody else. And so I don't know exactly but he was like, he didn't just win it, he blew other people away. That was sort of the quote. And it's just, the beep test doesn't mean anything in terms of like how you play soccer, but it's really impressive for a college kid to come into a professional environment and do that.
And have that confidence, you know, especially.
And be ready. So anyway.
Is the Hammer going to do what he did? Is he on, you know, Hernandez watch in terms of the working out on the workouts? I mean,
there's less videos this year, but
there are less.
He seems like he is in the same shape. So I feel like he's going to be fine. If he stays healthy, he gets 20 goals.
But I'm wondering if the Hammer's going to kind of report on
the Cheacher watch. I will ask.
Yeah, the Cheacher watch. Yeah,
all right. Okay. All right. Let's get you out of here. Okay. That's what we got today. By the way, a big shout out to Jorge or George. $10 super chat for us. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Very, very nice of you. I think that's it. The Galaxy will continue training. Look for stuff that they're posting this weekend. Again, just 38 days until the Galaxy face off against New York City FC at Dignity Health Sports Park. They'll be headed out to Golcello, which you won't be allowed to go to. I might head out there.
If you go, I'll go. And the other thing real quick, I know you're trying to get me out, but I did want to say real quick, can we do this season? Can we get like a Josh chart where we pick who we think's going to win the East, the West?
Oh yeah. We could between all the hosts. You want to do all the hosts? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, we can do it.
Who's going to get the most goals, assists, you know, that type of thing.
All right.
I'd love to do that.
All right. I'll make Eric do that. That sounds like a like a lot of things. So that sounds like something we could do. Did I miss any other donations? Somebody said that I missed more than, I think it was just George. I think I got it at the end there. Sometimes the chat room's a little bit behind, so I just wanted to make sure that we got it. All right. I think that's it. So anything else, Sophie? We good?
Yeah, we're good. No celebrity stories this week. Going to keep it clean.
That's totally not true. She told me one before we started recording, and it was about Julie Andrews, and I'm a big Julie Andrews fan. So anyway, so that was it. I just wanted to
Some
say
people in chat will be like, "Who's Julie Andrews?"
they better not. They better not. So anyway, she did tell me that story. All right, Sophie, tell people where they can find you. Let's go.
At Soccer Diva and at Highbury Squad across all social platforms. Check us out if you love a bit of Premier League and world football. Highbury Squad's got some good content. Josh, thank you so much for having me. You're rocking it as usual. And you know what? Greg Vanney doesn't have a patch on you, babe. I
don't believe that for a second. He's an incredibly attractive man. This is okay sometimes. So thank you very much. All right, if you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Guesman, JGUESMAN, and at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over cornerthegalaxy.com. The full press conference, full media call is up there. You can find it, all of our stories, all that stuff. Look for Marky Delgado as well. We'll talk a little bit more about that. All right, for Miss Sophie the Cannon Nicholaou, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.